that hooked me, like. Hey, it's Will Shannon here, and I'd like to talk to you today about how to read someone like a Secret Service agent. Now, that probably sounds like a fairly broad claim, doesn't it, to say that you can read someone as well as a Secret Service agent, but anyone who's ever been military or government trained knows that they go through, depending on what they had to do, certain observational techniques to give you an insight into what other people are thinking and feeling, primarily feeling. Now, there's some added elements to that. For instance, if someone's trying to conceal an emotion, that now adds a second layer and makes sometimes human interaction more difficult, where we have to now look at leakage and concealers. But in terms of just giving you the first tier in this, I'd like to teach you two things about how to read someone in this context. The first thing that I'd like you to look at is body and facial language. We've already learned that the body and mind are one system, so you make a shift in that mind, you're going to make a shift in the body, and vice versa. And the second thing I want you to look at, apart from facial and body language, is parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system changes. So let me explain what I mean, because I'm going to make this really simple for you by the time you finish this tape. So the first thing is facial and body language. Now, there's about 7 major face expressions that they've codified that we can observe, and I will teach you succinctly one by one in a separate tape. I'll make it real easy, like I have everything else so far, and show you how to bang, bang, bang 7, make them memorable, so you can look at someone and go, they just felt fearful, they just felt surprised, they just were unhappy. And then you've also got some basics in body language in terms of the way people are leaning, the direction that things are pointing. And I'll go in like everything else. I will systematize that so you don't miss anything, because body language can be a pretty big, confusing subject. It can almost be very daunting because there's almost unlimited ways of looking at things. So I'll show you again how to group that when you observe someone. But the second thing I'd like to show you that most people don't think of is parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system changes. So we've got 2 ways of reading people now. So the second, more complex way, and it's easy if you think about it, is the fact that the nervous system medically, you have what's called the sympathetic nervous system when you're stressed, and the parasympathetic, it's almost like someone smoking marijuana, smoking a joint, they've relaxed. The parasympathetic. Medically, people are either one or the other. Either one's on or the other. Medically, it's black or white. There's no analog spectrum. There's no in between. So medically, people are one or the other. It's very useful when you observe anyone to know which one they're in. Now, there's 6 drivers that you need to consciously train yourself to look for when looking at anyone. And I'd like you to start looking at these in other human beings, so that by the time you look at them, it's patent. And every time you look at someone, it's so unconscious that you don't even consciously look at it anymore, but you have an idea what people are feeling without having to, ask them or anything like that. So the 6 changes to show sympathetic versus parasympathetic changes are pupil dilation, skin tone, skin laxity, lower lip size, lines on the lower lip, and respiration, and blink rate. Now, this might seem a bit overwhelming, but I promise you again, like everything else, I'm going to make this so easy that you remember this. I don't care if we take a couple of takes, but this is going to be in you, I promise you, by the time we finish. But it's very easy. If I've gone from parasympathetic to sympathetic, I start blinking. It's unconscious survival instinct to protect my eyesight. Like if a bug flies at me, I shut my eyes to protect myself. It's all about protecting the brainstem, a lot of these things, because something goes wrong with that brainstem, people have challenges. So the first thing is blink rate. And notice, if you ever see an interview, they ask a politician or somebody a complex question, they tend to start blinking, don't they? That shows that someone's sympathetic nervous system is kicked in. That person is not feeling very comfortable. The second thing to look at is skin color. And I don't mean if someone's got black skin or white skin or orange skin. I mean, people's skin changes certain shades. Get to know the people you love and care about. Get to know strangers and look at skin tone. You can see it through makeup. I promise you, if you start looking for this, you will see it in every single human being you meet, and you will never be able to miss it for the rest of your life. It's just you've been deleting it up until now. And remember on another tape we talked about the fact that people basically delete most of their experience. So it's really important to look at. The other thing is pupil dilation. Now, people's eyes tells you can read a lot about people from their eyes, but the first thing is where their pupils at. Are they sitting too big? Are they sitting too small? Now, pupils can tell you 2 things. 1, someone really excited to see you, But more accurately, usually the pupils are a reflection of someone's nervous system. The eyes hang off the optic nerve that goes to the visual cortex at the back of the brain, and you're going to find that if someone's nervously exhausted, which most of us on Earth are in the 21st century, considering how much most of us push ourselves, you're going to see people's pupils being too big or too small a lot of the time. The other thing that you'll see is thyroid conditions. So someone's thyroid is burning out. You'll see people's eyes bulge, and then thirdly, I'm not going to give you sort of all the medical terminology behind it right now, but you may have heard of, people have beady eyes, or that person's like, you can see the nervous system, you can see the thyroid, and then also if things get bad and someone's in a danger zone by the time this is kicking in, then it's like, oh, their brain's not right, and that's something to steer clear of and something to address them straight away. And obviously, any eyesight challenges, the eyes are circulation organ and a lymphatic organ. So the two circulatory systems, we get there, we drain, and there's 100 techniques to, to get people off glasses or wean them down off glasses, which I'll go into on the tape for eyesight. By the way, once you've got all this toolkit at your disposal, you're going to be able to use this for everyone, aren't you? You're going to be able to take all these tools and be able to use them in the lives of people you love and care about. And most of us have a weakness in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 major body systems out of those 15 or 16. And because most of us are going back into the dust of the earth, most of us don't have the tools in our toolkit to be able to improve these things now. But I promise you'll be able to by the end. Now, the other things also is difference in respiration. Look at where people are breathing from, and I'll break this down in a tape on each, but look at where people are breathing from, chest, middle, or bottom of abdomen. How deep are they breathing? And you will see when someone goes parasympathetic to sympathetic, because you'll see that respiration shift. If someone whips around, they hold their breath, something's grabbed their nervous system in that moment. It's unconscious. A human being has very difficulty controlling that. They'll try and take conscious control of it again. And secondly, you ever notice if you're a therapist or a coach, someone goes, oh, it's like parasympathetics come back in. It's a survival instinct if somebody feels they're in danger, or it's a threatening situation, or they're feeling fearful. It's unconscious, and because we can never get rid of fear, as again we've discussed elsewhere, it's something we need to learn to take control of as best we can. The less situations in life make you fearful, the better your quality of life. If the more people you can connect with and not feel fearful, the more connections you're going to have. The more you can do your job under extreme adversity and feel very calm, and not even like a mind over matter thing, just you feel calm, that's going to make a huge difference in people you connect with too. So I'll go into this another time, each one, but just remember, I'll give them an order again so that you can remember every single one, but just roughly one by one. You've got blink rate, respiration, skin tone and colour. When people's parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, believe it or not, their lower lip fills with blood. And you actually see if someone's ready to be kissed or someone's relaxed, that lower lip will actually swell. It might only be a millimetre or two, but you can magnify your vision. You can see that in everyone. Look at if there's lines on the lower lip. Look at where the pupils are. Look at where people's eyes are sitting. When people get very stressed or very exhausted, in any human being, our eyes will start to roll back in the skull, and you'll see this drag underneath it. And if someone's pupils are sitting too big, we need to feed their nervous system. Evolutionarily, they look very weak, don't they? Have you ever noticed someone's got big pupils? You'll see it you'll know what I'm referring to if you start looking in the population. But people aren't strong. Once that nervous system is starting to cave in, people look very evolutionarily vulnerable. It's important that you help shift their state in that moment to physiologically in their body, because your nervous system is controlled by emotions, but then there's the physical aspect of how much resilience, how much can you cope with physically. And a lot of people just come in the world without the physical resilience that they need, and we need to build it. So I hope that gives you some indication. I'll go through it again. You've got facial and body language. Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves. So what that means in a nutshell is that you're looking for movement. You're looking for the most minute change, the most minute change. If you're a woman, you come pretty much hardwired with this unconsciously already there. You can't even consciously explain how you saw it. It's quicker than thought it happened. If you're a male, you've got different gifts, but please become acutely sensitized as much as you can in other people. And then the other context which I'll add if you're trying to read someone is then most people aren't conscious of their facial expression or body language, are they? Which makes them very easy to read, and their parasympathetic changes, right? But as soon as you get a human being in a situation where they're trying to conceal emotions, that's when it gets more difficult, and we'll go into another tape. But then you need to work out what emotion they're trying to conceal, and then why they're trying to conceal that. And that can be very difficult because now you're in a situation where people's unconscious flow isn't flowing, and they're trying to create a discrepancy between the mind and the body. So they're feeling a certain emotion mentally, but they're trying to make sure that that doesn't show in the physiology. And again, so there's when someone's in concealment, you got to work out what they're trying to conceal, why they're trying to conceal it, and then you look for something called leakage, where something comes through so unconscious. Do they smile at a certain moment? Do their pupils dilate? And be very, very acutely sensitized to what happens in people's bodies when they're telling you something. You know, if somebody says, I'm suicidal, and my husband has to do more things for me, it doesn't mean that person's cruel or a bad person, but just be conscious of secondary gain. Anything you can see showing through that physiology, because words are much more easily faked than body language and facial expression. So I'll go through this another time. Facial expression. The world's leading expert on facial expression is a guy called Paul Ekman. They did a series in Western culture on him called Lie to Me. And like most things, I can't say I've watched many episodes of that, but like most things in Western culture, obviously we try and glamorize and try and get people's attention for an audience and things like that. So that I'm not recommending running out and watching that show, but I'm just saying this is the gentleman he calls it FACS, FACS, Facial Action Coding System, which is in terms of every single muscle, what it's showing in human emotion, and also it's showing that whatever muscles you can get access to in your face in that moment, to use it. And Jack LaLanne from the 60s taught me when I watched these old films about the importance of facial aerobics, and I for years would do these facial aerobics which would give you access to different emotions and be able to move your face into a position where you can consciously demonstrate an emotion consciously or unconsciously to another human being. And I'm going to teach you how to do all this very simply in 3-4 minute takes. By the end of it, quickly systematized, you can go away and do something else and you'll be done. But I want this in your nervous system in your body. So facial expression, body language, movement. Nothing happens till something moves. Remember Einstein says that something moves, and now there's energy set in motion, or there's an emotion there. And then secondly, we've got our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system changes, which we'll talk about. People are going to sympathetic, parasympathetic. Physiologically, people's nervous system is in one or it's in the other. So you need to work out which one someone's in, but all you're looking for is difference. You watch respiration, you look at the pupil dilation. Everyone you meet, you look at their skin tone and the skin color. You look at lower lip size, you watch their blink rate, and you look at just as much as you'd observe someone's makeup or what they're wearing, because it's going to give you a much more powerful toolkit at your disposal. And then people get habitual emotions, don't they? You ever notice that some people always cringe? You can see that people are always got this emotion. Even some people are always in a micro-adjust. They go into it's almost quicker than thought, but they've gone into an angry situation, or they've gone into a fear, and people will link certain emotions to certain situations. By the way, we all feel strong in certain contexts, that done it 1,000 times. We all feel weak in other contexts, but you'll soon see this habituated emotional expression. Sometimes people feel sad or hurt, but you will see this habitual physiological use. Now, one of the things I'd like to help you do is take control of your facial expression, take control of your body language, and we've talked about being in a strong physiological state another time, but also I haven't covered so much so far being in a strong facial expression and understanding what facial expressions to use at different times, but you need to be conscious of that as well. And it doesn't mean you manipulate or show things necessarily that you aren't feeling, but at least in terms of concealment, making sure that you're not leaking everything you're feeling to other people. Now, sometimes emotions are going to be so strong it's going to be very difficult to conceal that. It's almost going to be overwhelming. But if you've been in a context as a therapist or coach, I'm sure you know what it's like to stay really cool under pressure when you're hearing the most extreme things. And the last thing you want to do is look at someone in an expression that any way someone could misinterpret as being judged or angry or anything like that if the context doesn't call for it. So my challenge for you today is this. Please take what I've given you take it out there and use it, like some of the other tools we've stacked. Look at these little things that I've talked about. Look at those 5 or 6 changes. We'll go through each one in depth. How deep are people breathing? Where they, oh, something happened, they just tensed. Well, do I want them to feel tense or do I love them? Well, maybe I need to shift the frame. They just blinked. Why do they feel uncomfortable? What emotion do I want them to feel instead? Do I want to take them back to a place of comfort? And then we'll go into body language. Are they looking towards me, away? And then, this is the first of it, now I've got this degree of concealment. Am I breaking apart inside, but I'm really trying to look cool and calm on the outside because I want to have leadership qualities for my family, which means, we train that 50% of our nervous system, our facial and body language, to always be in the strongest state as we possibly can. And then obviously there's moments when we need to feel vulnerable in life as well. No one needs to be in a certain state all the time. It's very useful to live there if you need to be in leadership qualities a lot of the time, but there's going to be moments when you just want to drop that so you can just feel, be vulnerable, be intimate with someone again and not have to be blockading that as well. So I'll show you how to do that, and when we get into some really advanced NLP techniques, I'll actually show you how to overlap things that people are feeling and synthesize them so you can feel it on your skin and things like that, so you can pick up things in a heartbeat. But right now, I've introduced you to facial, body language, parasympathetic and sympathetic changes, those kind of 2 areas, and we'll go in depth, 60-second videos another time, and it'll be patterned in your nervous system.